Greetings once again. Right now that we have recognized that there is a possibility to build our team systematically, now we recognize that there is a platform that is really amazing. We know that the compensation plan is there for us. However, we will still come across many people who would say that money is not the most important thing in life. We agree with some, but you know what? So that we will take that out of the equation. We're not just doing this for money, but even though we've seen that, from the illustration of life, we will need money, there will still be people who are arguing. We're not here to argue, we're not here to put anybody out, but let's do an analogy. Let's do an analogy before we move to the next part, right? Let's talk about how important is money in our lives. Again, like I mentioned, we've come across some people who say money is not important. Some will agree, some will completely disagree. Let's do an analogy to justify our discussion. Let's talk about scenario number one. I'm going to talk about 4 scenarios. We talk about scenario number 1, physical well-being. All right? Let's just think that if we decide that for 6 months we will eat anything that we want, we don't watch our diet, and we don't do any exercise, we just want to relax and laze around, what would happen to us? Do we become critically ill and die because of this, or we just likely become a little fatter? Truth is, we will only become a little fatter. We will survive and can get back in shape as soon as we start managing our eating and do some exercise. Life goes on. Scenario number 2, social well-being. If we decide that for 6 months we decide not to be on Facebook, not to call any friend, not to meet any friend, we just want to be alone and do everything alone. Do we suddenly become antisocial forever and become unable to be with people? Truth is, we will only probably feel lonely, but we can go on living and even back to normal when we go back to our usual social lifestyle. Life goes on. Mental well-being. If we decide that for 6 months we are not going to read anything and not learn anything, we're just tired of educating ourselves and we want to be free to do whatever we want except learning. Do we suddenly become stupid and forget all that we've ever learned and cannot go on living? Truth is, we just become a little less up to date about current affairs and will be instantly updated as soon as we read the news. As soon as we read the newspaper, we watch TV, and you know what? As long as we are back on the social sites, we will be updated, right? Life goes on. What about scenario number 4, financial well-being? If for 6 months all forms of finances are cut off from us, no income, no savings, nowhere to get any financial help, can we survive for 6 months without any money? We have bills, we have to feed ourselves and our loved ones, we have living expenses. The fact of life, we cannot survive. We will not be able to function without money, even for a month, let alone 6 months. Money is not the most important thing in life, but it is as essential as air and water for us. So now that this is settled, that we will need money in our lives, then let's ensure that we will never ever be left without options to make money and be financially independent. Right? That's why this whole program is all about. That's why we are getting into the point of really understanding how to build a team systematically. Now let's look at what are the tools that we need to help to build our team systematically. Right? You know what? There's always something for us to share in the manner to say about how good this opportunity is. The good news that we always want to share with people, that this is our objective of sharing this whole entire opportunity, is to bring us towards financial independence. As long as we always keep that in mind, you know what, I always want to remind again and again, the reason why we are doing this is because we don't want to be left in a situation. The pandemic has taught us quite a few things. We don't want to be caught in that situation again. right? So let's go on to what we would like to discuss now is the tools, right? The secret, not the secret as in the secret the movie, not the secret as in the secret that the books that you read, but the secret to getting what matters most in life, right? There are three, again, we would like to remind you the three very important principles. Principle of longevity, focus on the things you can control. Principle of effectiveness, do not confuse activities with accomplishment. Principle of maximization, measure and monitor the things that matter. You need to internalize these principles. These principles need to be applied. Without principles, you are not going anywhere. Why? Because success does not respond to wishes or good intention. Success only responds to specific purpose backed by specific plans and specific principles. Purpose, we are clear. Financial freedom, financial independence. Plan, we have shared. Principles are the things that you need to internalize. You need to recognize that these are the fundamentals of building a successful business. Your dream, this is where it all begins. A dream is not what you have while you are asleep, but what keeps you awake until it becomes a reality. How do we get it started? Number one, and most important thing, put it on paper. You need to identify clearly what matters to you in life. In this case, we're talking about independent financially. We're talking about what we want to do, whatever rank we want to get to. We need to identify clearly. Different point of time, we will have different things, but the principle of doing things remains the same. Put it on paper. Next, you need to register a date. You need to set a date as to when you expect to get what matters to you. Whether it's rank up, whether it's a certain amount of money on a daily basis, whatever it is that you have proposed pertaining to the business, right? Register a date. Remember, deadlines are not there to lock you. Deadlines are there to arrange and manage your time. You cannot work without boundaries. You need to work with boundaries. Next thing you need to do is you need to engage people. You need to engage the group, the people, and the organization you need to work in order to help you get what matters to you. The group, join your team members, do your Zooms. Organizations, even if you need to connect with some organizations for to build your team, right? And the people around you are important. You need to engage with them. If you do not have people, you do not have a team, right? So engage people. Next, you need a plan of action. You have to develop a plan of action. We have given you an action plan. We've given you the strategy of how to build a team. We've shown you how you can build a team, but you need to have a plan of action of your own, right? You need to know how, you need a plan. You need to have a systematic way of approaching what you need to get. Another thing which you really need to do is you have to analyze your strength and weaknesses. We all have strength and we all have weaknesses. It is not wrong to have weaknesses, neither is it too great to have strengths. We all have different strengths and we all have different weaknesses. You just need to you just remember this, you have to learn, unlearn and relearn skills to get what matters most. There's a lot of learning to do. There's a lot of unlearning to do. And there's a whole bunch of relearning to do. What we learned many years ago may not be relevant today, unlearn it. What we have learned a long time ago but we have forgotten, relearn it. What is new, we learn again. We learn more. Next thing that is very important is to recognize obstacles. You need to recognize that there are going to be obstacles that you must overcome in order to get what matters to you. There will be obstacles. There will be obstacles. There will be rejections. There will be people who let you down. There will be people who accuse you. There will be people who blame you if they cannot succeed. These are obstacles. One truth I share with people most of the time, people ask me about when do you become successful, or what is it? Success is not a destination, but I have a measuring point. The day you are able to accept rejection is the day you have become successful, because this is one of the greatest hindrance in people's life. Whenever they get rejected, they feel it's them. Do not feel that it's you. Rejection is part of this business. You do not get paid for the sign-ups. You get paid for all the rejections that you have been getting all these years. Recognize that, rejections are not to be carried on your shoulder as a burden. Recognize that rejections are stepping stones to build you up. You stand on them. Put them under your foot. People who reject, most of the time reject themselves and reject the business. Don't associate with you. You are doing the business. You are not the business. Right? Another one thing about rejection is that the more rejections you have, the greater your chance of becoming extremely successful. Most of us take a lot of rejection before we get there. Don't worry about it. It's just part of life. Do not allow somebody's inability to recognize an opportunity to become your reality. Next, one of the key things we need to empower yourself. How do you empower yourself? You need to remind yourself regularly as to what's in it for you. When you get what matters to you, remind yourself of the income. Remind yourself of the things that are going to happen. Remind yourself of the things that you could do. Remind yourself of the day, how joyful it would be that when you go shopping, you buy a gift for your loved one, you don't even look at the price tag. Remind yourself of the day, of how fun it would be when you want to go for a vacation with your loved ones and you don't have to worry about what's the cost. Remind yourself. That's empowering yourself, right? Now, why? Because you need to remember that this is what you need to do. You need to be familiar with it, and then you will start your duplication. Duplication is what it's all about, right? Once you have done this, you'll be able to lead your people. You put it on paper. You register a date. You engage people. Let me summarize this. You have your plan of action. You analyze your strength and weakness. You recognize your obstacles. You empower yourself. Once you've done that, you have actually just prepared yourselves. This is how important all this is, because when we do all this, we prepare ourselves for the journey to get what matters most. The acronym for this whole exercise, this whole system that we have put in place is prepare. Watch the next thing. And when you finally arrive at duplication, you have been prepared systematically to enjoy what matters to you. I'd like to emphasize this, that success is not just for a chosen few, but sadly, only few have chosen to be prepared for success. You need to be prepared for success. And we have given you the roadmap. We've given you the blueprint. We've given you the direction. Alright? Now we know that we have a blueprint already as to how to get things done. Look out for the 3 videos. There are 3 videos that we have placed in the empowerment section, which will give you an understanding, a little bit of an understanding, an illustration of a video illustration on the 3 principles, right? Internalize the principles, enjoy the process. Let's meet again in another video. Thank you so much.